Jurassic World Evolution is probably one of the games I've spent the most hours on the PlayStation 4. I love it. I love dinosaurs, I love anything connected to the Jurassic World or Jurassic Park franchises, and I also love park builders. This game proved to me that park simulations can not only work on the PlayStation 4, but can actually be amazing. So when Frontier Developments announced that Planet Coaster, the spiritual successor to games like Roller Coaster Tycoon and Theme Park, was coming to the PlayStation, I was excited. Hello everybody, I'm Roy McCoy and welcome to my latest 5-step review. And this time the focus is Planet Coaster on the PlayStation 4 and also the PlayStation 5. Yes, it's the console edition. And I just want to say a big thank you to Frontier for providing me with the code to make this review. Before we get started, don't forget to smash that like button as it really does help this video to grow. But after that shameless plug, let's move on to the 5-step review, and the 5 steps will be those usual suspects. The first step will be a brief summary of what the game is. Step 2 will be all about those game mechanics, what it is, what it does, talking about the good things and the bad things of the gameplay. Step 3 will once again be incredibly short in this video because it's all about the plot and story. Step 4 is the audio and the visuals, and step 5 is a summary of everything I've said, rounding it up with that all-important conclusion. So, let's crack on to step 1. What is Planet Coaster in a nutshell? So as I mentioned at the start of the video, Frontier Games also brought us Jurassic World Evolution, which is a park simulator. But around 25 years ago, when I first got a PlayStation 1 controller in my hands, I remember not soon after buying Theme Park and Theme Hospital. And while we've had the spiritual successor to Theme Hospital in the form of 2 Point Hospital hitting our consoles, I have been waiting for Planet Coaster because it is very much the spiritual successor to Theme Park. And although it looks a lot more graphically improved and everything's updated and modernized, underneath the hood or underneath the bonnet, it is still very much the same mechanics as those Theme Park games. So at this point, I'm going to say if you love something like Theme Park, this is definitely something for you to look at. The game itself is divided into 3 parts. There's the career mode, the challenge mode, and the sandbox mode. And there's also access to a creator studio where you can download the creations of other gamers. And in the game you can do all those wonderful things: build rides, build roller coasters, build hot dog stands, build parks and pathways, and let your creations run wild. And of course, all of the trappings you'd expect in a management game like a park simulation game are here. There is the research tree where you can research new rides, new shops, and new decorations. And decorations are a huge thing for your park to think about to make your park look more attractive and your customers and guests happier. And there's also the advertising ideas. You can think about social media and getting it in the paper and getting, there's so much to think about in this game. So that is the game. If I had to sum it up in one sentence, I would literally say this is the spiritual successor to Theme Park with a shiny new look. Now let's go more into detail in step 2 and talk about the game mechanics. So the game is split into 3 parts. There's the career mode, the challenge mode or scenarios, and also the sandbox mode. Probably the easiest way to become accustomed with the game and the design and the things that you have to achieve is to head straight to the career mode. And the first levels of the career mode act as a tutorial, and it teaches you everything you need to know through a variety of different characters who teach you about things like the research, roller coaster building, decorating your theme park, making it look attractive, thinking about the finances, taking loans, advertising in newspapers, thinking about your guest happiness, checking on them, making sure they're happy, making sure they're not paying too much or too little. Once you complete the tutorials, you get stars, which opens up new levels. And each of these missions, the tutorial and the ones after it, are split into 3 tiers of challenges: bronze, silver and gold. And to complete these tiers, you would have to meet a set of goals. For example, a specific number of people in your park, or a satisfaction rating in your staff, or hitting a certain financial goal. And once you complete the level, you get the bronze, silver and gold stars. The more stars you get, the more missions are opened up, or the more levels are opened up in your career. And the further you go in your career, the harder the levels get. Now, something interesting about this, you would take over a pre-existing park. So it could be a park that's financially ruined and not doing very well, and you need to rescue them from their dire situation, being in the red, and pay off their loans, or you might have to build an eco-friendly park. but fundamentally you're taking over a park and making it better. And as I said, the further you progress in the career, the harder it gets. Then, of course, you have your challenge mode, which is more like the kind of traditional theme park. You have a set amount, a limited amount of money, and you have to build your park from scratch, which I found a hell of a lot of fun. And you can build a variety of different things. There's things like merry-go-rounds, go-kart tracks, log flumes, roller coasters, you name it. If it's in a theme park in the world, it's probably in this game. Now, I've had a look at the Steam version of Planet Coaster, and sadly not all of the DLC seems to be included. Things like the Back to the Future DLC and the Ghostbusters DLC didn't seem to make its way to the console version, so time will tell whether we get that or we don't. The last mode that you get is the sandbox, which is basically you'll come out and play, money is no problem, money is no object, and you can build to the limitation of the maps. But there's still plenty of space to build and lots of things to do and see, and I had a lot of fun playing this. Designing my park, thinking about what things go where, trying to meet goals in the career mode, trying to make sure that there were enough toilets and enough staff room and that staff member didn't quit and my guests were happy. And yes, while the goal is making money, there was a lot of things to think about. Guest satisfaction, you could click on your guests and check what they were thinking, and overall this game was a treat to play. However, there is one thing I need to mention, and that is the controls. Now, on the whole, the controls worked pretty well. However, when you're slightly adjusting the prices of things in the menu, it's a little bit clunky. But the worst thing for me was the building of the roller coaster. The controller just didn't quite feel as in control as I'd like to have done. Now, it did get easier over time, especially when I understood how to make things bank and turn the tracks. But at the same time, I did feel a little bit frustrated. I found myself gritting my teeth trying to make this roller coaster work and go in the right way. Now, luckily, there was a number of prefabricated roller coasters that I could just plump into my park, but I really wanted to design my own, and I spent hours doing this. Now, I know that this is part of the fun of the game to build your own roller coasters, and it can take a long time, but I didn't feel it took a long time because I wanted it to be perfect. I felt it took a long time because I was having a little bit of difficulty making the tracks go the exact way I wanted it to go. And when you are building your roller coaster, you have to think about a number of things like fear, the nausea rating, and the excitement. Now, something that really helps you work out where the track is going wrong is that it shows you these kind of heat ratings. So when you're trialing your roller coaster, it will show you where the problem areas are. So you swap a bit of track and make the ride a little bit smoother. But because of the controls, after all, I often found myself just deleting huge sections that I'd spent an age creating, just trying to fit in a new piece of track. So yeah, the controls for me were probably the sticking point, but on everything else, it really did work well. And I have to say, I thought the tutorial functioned really well. I think the finances of the game are logical. I think the whole game itself is logical. And of course, if you do get tired of the prefabricated roller coasters that Frontier have provided, there is that creator studio where you can download a number of different creations by people who have spent time making a brilliant roller coaster. And something at this point I really want to say is the level of detail this game goes into is magnificent. In the shops you can change the prices, the foods they serve, the levels of salt even that they have on their food. You can also train your staff. You can set their duties and their areas. You can change the price and the frequency and the waiting times, and there is so many things that you can do and change. And not only that, the levels of customization. You can even customize the looks of your rides, the colors, the design, the features. There is so much to do in this game if you really, really want to micromanage. And for anybody worried about buying it on the console, feeling like it's going to be some kind of reduced version, yeah, of course there are some limitations when coming across from a high-end PC to a console, but it never once felt like I was getting a dumbed-down or second-rate version of the game. I loved it and it felt complete, very much like my enjoyment of 2 Point Hospital. Step 3, and it's all about the plot. Okay, so obviously it's a park sim. There isn't a huge amount of story here, but there is some element. I enjoyed the characterization of the people that took you through the tutorial. I enjoyed the voice acting. That's more for the audio. But the one thing that I did love during the career mode is the fact that you get a backstory to these parks. For example, there's one park where some kind of monster has run riot and all the staff have quit and are demanding higher wages and the financial person is annoyed. So there is a kind of element of story in there. in the sense that, especially in the career mode, not so much in the other modes, but then you can't really expect that. But there is a kind of narrative. The main guy is all about the fun and wants you to build the most fun park, and he doesn't care about the money. And you really feel him, you really understand him, but then the balance of the financial person who's worried about the money, they really do play off against each other. And even the social media influencer who's constantly attached to their phone talking about her kind of opinions of the park, they really do come alive, and I enjoyed the story and I enjoyed the world that it built. It did make me feel, in career mode, it did make me feel as part of something, rather than just a mechanical game where you had to build a park. So I know that was really quick, but that is it for the story. So let's now move on to the graphics and audio. So audio first, I just spoke about those characters. I really enjoyed the voice acting. Now, I found it quite humorous, it was engaging, it didn't take itself too seriously, there were plenty of jokes. And overall, it was delivered well. The music itself is enchanting and engaging, and it's wonderful, and it just feels, especially that opening tune, was just something that really kind of put you in a happy mood. And the sound effects, of course, of the roller coaster, the people screaming in the roller coaster, whizzing around the tracks, the metal scraping on metal, it really did work for me. And likewise, the graphics. As I said, there were no real drops in frame rate, and the graphics looked great. I was really impressed by the way in which the game looked. And when you get on the ride and you ride on the ride, for example, you're riding your own roller coaster, it looks great. And I really enjoyed the colours, it was vibrant, it was enjoyable. So all in all, it was just a really nice game to look at and to play, and it made you want to play more. So now let's move on to step 5, which is probably the most important thing. Is this something you should buy? So, to summarise what I've said so far, the game doesn't feel dumbed down for console, it feels really, really solid. It's an enjoyable game that allows you to micromanage and build the park the way in which you want to build it. There's a hell of a lot of content, buildings, maps, career mode, challenges, sandbox, there's a lot of game to get into. And also don't forget that creator studio, which gives you basically unlimited content. Then, of course, the audio and the visuals look great on the PlayStation. All in all, I was hugely satisfied and enjoyed this game. The only real bugbear I had about this game was that controller system. It did feel a little bit clunky at times in menus, and especially when you were building your roller coaster. I found it quite frustrating. I got there in the end, but it took me a hell of a long time to work around the banks and the corners and to understand why the fear levels were so high on a specific part. And even when I auto-connected the track, it just went into this weird bumpy system that created more problems for me. And all in all, I did find that a little bit frustrating. But even as I say that, in the end, with those roller coasters, I did finally get there after hours. And the satisfaction when I finally managed to build the roller coaster that I wanted to was incredible. Although the hours I spent probably wasn't worth the payoff. And that was down to my issues with the controls rather than kind of my perfectionist attitude. So, all in all, if I had to give this game a score, and I will, I'd give it a solid 8 out of 10. It's great. So, should you buy it? Well, this game is solidly for fans of park builders, so if you were back on the PlayStation 1 like me playing Theme Park, or you enjoy Jurassic World Evolution, if you like these kind of simulation or strategy building games, then yes, take a look at this. And I had a huge amount of fun out of it. And as I said before, this will be the last new game that's reviewed on the PlayStation 4, and I'm glad it turned out to be such a great one, because I was looking forward to this for a long time, and it didn't disappoint. That brings me to the end of this video, and for me today, all I have to say is this is Roy McCoy, out!